Hello. Welcome back to my channel. This is Joe Brand. So welcome to the Free Mind. Okay, so this is our part 3 discussion in the topic of making informed decision. But before I will start, I would like to say hi to all my subscribers. Thank you so much for all your support. And as promised, I will be explaining this to you in English uh, so that everybody can understand my discussion. Okay, so are you ready? But before I'll do that, by the way, please don't forget to hit like, share, and subscribe. If you like this video, if you think this video is very beneficial to all our online learners, to all our students, or to those who are interested to get to know more about the word psychology, this is a part 3 discussion in making informed decision. So we will be talking about the self, the society, and the environment. So as we all know that when we try to explain our side or when we try to make decisions, we always consider ourselves. We always consider our feelings, our emotions, and the people that surrounds us, and as well as our environment. So let's try to explain that to you in a very simple way. So I hope this video or this discussion would really help you a lot in your learning journey. Okay, so in this video again, I will be explaining the self, the society, and the environment. So I am the self, and my family, my immediate family, my friends, and my colleagues, they are all part of my society, and I am also part of the environment. So we will try to get to know that, to explain that better, so that we would appreciate the importance of understanding this topic. Okay, so let's start with our individual or the self. So let's start with you. So based on research, when you try to make decisions, you always consider yourself first, right? Okay, so because we should always ask ourselves, am I making the right decision for myself? Am I doing the right thing for me? So that is very important in making decisions. You always consider yourself for ourselves alone. If you want to make a good decision, you also have to consider the feelings of other person. You also have to consider their thoughts, their inputs, so that our decision is not just good for myself, it is also good for everybody. So I am not only talking about myself, my thoughts, my preference. I am also considering the feelings of other person. So we will get to know the four ethical theories or framework that will support our understanding of self, society, and environment. So, if you want to know yourself, or if you want to know if you are doing the right thing for yourself, you should understand yourself as well as the people that surrounds you. You also have to learn how to take care of yourself. So in order for us to get to know more on how to take care of ourselves, how to make the right decisions for ourselves, let's get to know the four ethical theories or framework. So let's start with John Stuart Mill. So who is Mill? So his idea talks about the idea of utilitarianism. So what is utilitarianism? So if you can still remember the previous discussions that we had, so I've discussed the idea of utilitarianism. And the idea of this one is Mill wants us to maximize pleasure and to minimize pain. So the idea is we need to maximize pleasure. We need to increase the things that make us happy, and we try to decrease the things that gives us pain. So that is utilitarianism. Because according to him, the main purpose of this one is we need to do things that gives us more happiness, and we would avoid things that gives us pain, frustrations, and sadness. So actually his idea was his idea about utilitarianism was anchored by the idea of Bentham. So Jeremy Bentham, which also discusses the idea of utilitarianism, and he clearly stated that what makes an action good is that it brings about the greatest happiness for the greatest number. Again, according to Bentham, what makes an action good? What makes an action good if it brings happiness, greatest happiness for the greatest number of people, or the greatest number of people that affected by your action. Therefore, you can say that what you are doing is good if everybody is happy. It is not only you that it is not only you that you are happy about your action, it is also the people, your immediate family, they're also happy about your decisions. And everybody is happy with your decisions. Therefore, you can say that what you are doing is good. That's according to Bentham. Okay, so if I do such action, if if everybody is proud of me, or if everybody is very happy because of my decisions, therefore I can say I am doing the right thing. I am doing the idea of Bentham, the greatest happiness for the greatest number of people. So that is his idea. Okay, so the idea of Bentham, it's more on the quantity. How many people are affected by your action? If you are or if you are giving so much happiness because of your action, and a lot of people are affected by it, they're also happy because of your decisions or because of your actions, therefore you are practicing the idea of utilitarianism. It is not all about you. When you talk about utilitarianism, it is not all about you. You should also consider the feelings, the emotions, the feelings or the emotions of other person. So again, greatest happiness for the greatest number of people. So it is not all about what I feel good about myself. So if you keep on thinking I made this decision because it makes me feel good, try to ask your friends if they are also happy with your decisions. If they are happy with your decisions, and a lot of people are happy because of your decisions, possibly your decision is or your action is good. It is beneficial for everyone. So that is the idea of Bentham and John Stuart Mill about utilitarianism. So we should not focus on ourselves. Let's try to see if that decision is good for me or not. Okay, so the second theory that I will be explaining is the idea of Thomas Aquinas. Okay, so how can I tell if my action is good for me or not? If I am making a good decision for myself. So according to Thomas Aquinas, right? So according to Thomas Aquinas, his theory talks about the natural law theory. And he stated that humans, right? Humans, we have our natural inclination or tendency to share with all other existing things. Therefore, I have a natural inclination to build relationship with other person. I have my natural inclination to be with them. So that is the idea of Thomas Aquinas, the ability to maintain oneself in one's existence. Therefore, I have my natural or innate ability to be with other person. So Thomas Aquinas teaches us to maintain our connection with other person, to maintain our biological or physical existence, or our physical existence with other person. So his idea clearly stated that any actions that cultivate or sustain your physical existence is considered good. So therefore, if you do things that is good for you, or that it helps you a lot, therefore you are doing good. But any action that lead to the destruction of yourself, therefore it is considered bad. So that is the idea of Thomas Aquinas. So if magbuhat ko aning butang nga maayo, or if magbuhat ko aning nga butang nga makahatag na kog kalipay, therefore it's good. But if magbuhat kog butang nga madaot ko or dili ko matarong or madaot ko, therefore it is bad. So that is the idea of the natural law theory of Thomas Aquinas. So Aquinas specifies that as humans, we have our ability to take care of ourselves. It is our obligation to ourselves. We have our obligation to do what is good for ourselves. Therefore, it is a moral duty that we owe. It is a moral duty that we owe to ourselves and to God. That's why we need to do things that is good, because it is our moral duty to do what is good as human beings. It is our obligation to take care of ourselves, because that is our duty to ourselves and to God. So we have our obligation. Okay? So the main purpose of our existence, according to Thomas Aquinas, is to what? Is to promote a harmonious life in society. Again, the main purpose of our existence, our physical existence, physical meaning this is my physical existence, is to build or to have a harmonious life in society with other humans. Therefore, Thomas Aquinas wants us to have a good relationship with other existence, like your family, your friends, your parents, your colleagues. So he also suggested that we should go away, or we should not maintain our selfish desires. Get our selfish desires if we want to build a harmonious life in society. Okay, so for me, this is just the same with the idea of utilitarianism, to try to ask if your decision is good, not just for yourself, but for the people around you. Okay, so we should go beyond what she thinks is good for me. We should go beyond what we think is good for me, and try to analyze or realize the importance of building harmonious relationship with others. So therefore, Aquinas wants us to go beyond what we think is good only for me. We should also try to think if this is good for me and for anybody else. We should not think for ourselves alone. We should also build relationship, because the main purpose of our physical existence, or our existence, is to promote truth and establish harmonious coexistence with others. The idea of Immanuel Kant about the self in making informed decision. So according to Immanuel Kant, we as human beings, we have our rational faculty, because we are the moral agent. Moral agent means we have the ability to think, we can reason out, we have the free will to do things that what we think is good for us or not. So according to him, he challenged us. Kant's principle of universalizability challenges us to think beyond of ourselves, to think beyond our desires. Instead, consider what is really important for you. So let's try to think beyond what is our desires or our predictions about ourselves. Let's try to see what is really needed for us to do as a moral agent. So that is the idea of Immanuel Kant, because Kant us not to use other people as instrument. So what does it mean? According to Kant, many people lost sight what is really important because of a lot of things. Sometimes we lose ourselves, sometimes we lost ourselves because of our perceived goals, other perceived goals. Meaning because of our financial desires, because of so many things, we sometimes lost ourselves. And because of that, and because of that, and because of that, we don't know what is really important for us. And because of that, we try to we try to focus more on ourselves than to the things that is really important for us and for anybody else. So Kant's principle of autonomy teaches one that nobody can tell us what to do. According to Kant, nobody, yes, it's true, nobody can tell us what to do. We have our autonomy. We can decide, we can do things, we can do a lot of things. So no one can tell us what we ought to do in a particular situation because we have our highest rational faculty, which is ourselves. Right? So, meaning Kant is very open that you can do your things on your own. I can do my things on my own because of our rational faculty. So, therefore, Kant wants us to go beyond because of our ability to do things what is good for me or what is not good for me. Is Kant wants us we should not lose our sight because of a lot of things. We should learn how to ask ourselves if we are still doing the right thing, or if do you feel lost because of a lot of things. So go back with the idea of universalizability. Okay, because according to him, because of our desires, because of a lot of things, we sometimes lost ourselves to what is really important for us human beings. The self is the idea of Aristotle. Aristotle, virtue ethics. So Aristotle wants us to cultivate our intellect, to cultivate our intellect as well as our character to achieve ultimate happiness in our lifetime. Therefore, we need to know ourselves better for us to know what really makes you happy, or what is the things that makes me happy. So we need to understand that. That is the idea of Aristotle virtue ethics. So according to Aristotle, Aristotle is quite forgiving when it comes to our individual actions. And Aristotle also accepted the fact that we as human beings, we commit mistakes. Yes. We always commit mistakes. We find it hard to achieve our ultimate happiness because we keep on craving and craving for more. We keep on asking and asking for more. So he accepted that idea. So that's why he is very open to our mistakes. So what he really wants us to experience is, despite of our mistakes, despite of a lot of failures that we commit every day, so we need to learn our lessons. So we need to accept the fact that once we commit mistakes, we need to change our ways if that is wrong for me or if that is wrong for you. So we need to ask ourselves, a better person if we keep on committing mistakes. So Aristotle is very forgiving, right? He lead us, or he wants us to think that despite of our mistakes from time to time, the important question is this, is whether are we learning from our mistakes? Because if we are learning from our mistakes, Aristotle wants us to change our ways. If that is wrong for you, or if that is not good for you, change your ways. That's according to Aristotle, to have a harmonious and orderly life. So dili kuno ta magsigig kay bawo na kang sayop na siya, imo gihapong buhaton. You know that it is wrong for you, but you keep on doing it. So it's not good according to Aristotle. If you think that what you are doing is not good for you, then stop it. Then change your ways to have an orderly life. So the main important life according to Aristotle is this. It is all about learning from one's experience. Life is all about learning from all our mistakes, learning from one's experiences, so that we'll become a better person. We should learn from our mistakes. We should learn from all our experiences. Because as what we've said, experience is the best teacher. You are learning from your experience. Okay? So that is the idea of Aristotle. So one must become a better person. The main goal here is for us to become a better person and not just to live a series of endless mistakes. So we should not live in a series of endless mistakes. So if you think that what you did before was wrong, so let's change your ways. If what you are doing is not good for you, stop it and change your ways, because we should not live in a series of endless mistakes. So that is the idea of Aristotle when it comes to individual or the self. Okay, so the next topic is the social life. As we all know that as humans we need our social life, and uh part of our society is we need to build a harmonious social life. But it will come to a point wherein our social or our society comes in conflict with one's most fundamental value. So sometimes what is dictated in our society go against our personal values. So let's try to explain why is it so? Why is that happening? Okay, so again, let's go back to our four ethical theories or framework to explain the idea of social life. So I have my own social life. You also have your own social life, and it's part of our existence. We need our social life. So let's start explaining it using the idea of Mill. Okay, Jan Stewart Mill. So Mill's idea talks about the idea of utilitarianism. So Mill's idea talks about the idea of utilitarianism. And Mill wants us to push for the greatest happiness principle. To push ourselves for the greatest happiness principle as the prime determinant of the things that we considered good or not good for us. So we need to consider the greatest happiness principle when you talk about the idea of Mill. Therefore, because we have different culture, we have different upbringings, cultural differences, so I cannot tell that what they are doing based on their culture is good for me or not good for me. Okay, so let's try to push for the greatest happiness principle. So as an individual, so we need to think carefully whether our action is good or not good, or if the culture approves of it. So therefore, when you talk about culture sa Pinoy, we have a culture, no? So when you go abroad, lahi na pud ang culture. Therefore, our social life murag ma-change siya, ma-change. There is culture shock, or there is a flexibility when it comes to our culture. It's because the culture that is implemented here in the Philippines is different from the culture that is implemented abroad. So that's why our culture will vary depending will vary from time to time. Okay, so as individual, as a rational being, we need to think first. We need to think carefully whether our action is good, or if the culture approves of it, or it will truly benefit everyone. So if that culture will benefit everybody else. So we need to think carefully when you talk about culture, because we have a lot of culture, our family culture, our religious culture. So a lot of things are influencing us on how we make our own decisions. So the notion of the greatest number can also go beyond the borders of one's own perceived territory. So what does it mean? So when you talk about culture, a lot of people will say when you talk about culture, the notion of culture is as long as everybody is doing it, so I'll be doing it also. So therefore, that's the idea, that's the influence of Mill, the idea of utilitarianism, that it is go beyond the borders of one's perceived territory. So I will do this, I will make this decision because everybody is also making this kind of decision. Okay, so we need to think when you talk about our social life, we need to think carefully if what you are doing is for the greatest happiness principle. If you think that what you are doing is not for the greatest happiness principle, you need to think carefully and try to ask yourself, try to ask the culture, try to ask everybody else that if that decision is really good for me or not good for me. Critical theory is the idea of Thomas Aquinas. Okay, so according to Thomas Aquinas, when you talk about your social life, is we need to focus more on our natural law theory or our natural tendency to do what is good or not good for us. Okay, so according to him, our natural law theory should be the one to guide us on what is really important in towards our existence. So we should be mindful with our natural inclination. We should be mindful with our natural tendency to do good. So according to Thomas Aquinas, as human beings is we have our moral obligation to provide care, to promote truth, and to build a harmonious social life. So our natural tendency as humans is to build a harmonious social life with other beings. So Aquinas wants us to focus more on the larger whole. You should not focus, when you talk about your social life, you should not focus on yourself alone because you are not dealing with your social life. If you want to deal with your social life, focus on the larger whole. Focus on other beings. For Aquinas, no harmonious social life will be possible if individuals such as society do not value human life. So therefore, Aquinas tells us that there is no harmonious social life if you do not know how to value human life. So if you want to have a harmonious social life, protect other beings, give care, provide care, establish, build a harmonious social life, telling the truth and a peaceful coexistence. Although we encounter a lot of conflict now, but we should learn how to meet halfway, or we should learn how to try to build a good relationship so that we will have a peaceful coexistence with other beings. So the third ethical theory or framework in understanding our social life is the idea of Immanuel Kant. Okay, so Immanuel Kant focuses on the idea of universalizability. Right? So what is good for me, it should be also good for everyone. So that is universalizability. Okay, so therefore no one can dictate your choice of action because you are a rational being. Right? But according to Immanuel Kant, according to Kant's framework, if you are going to follow any of these heteronomous rules or laws, it must be because such law is in accordance with your understanding of it. Therefore, if you're going to follow what is dictated by anybody else, make sure that it is in accordance with the law. Make sure that the law is in accordance with how you understand of it, how you understand things. It is in accordance with my principle. It is in accordance with my own personal values. That's why you follow, right? It is not because it is dictated by other person without thinking lang siya. It's not a good idea. Before you follow such things, you need to internalize, you need to analyze if that is in accordance with my own personal law, with my own personal values. Okay, so Kant is not saying that we should not follow any rules dictated by other person. Kant wants us to make sure that if we follow such a law, you should you understand, you understand it well. You know that you follow it because it is the right thing to do for yourself. So that is the idea of Immanuel Kant. Again, no one can dictate your choice of action because you are a rational being. But if in case you follow such a law or dictated by any other person, make sure that you really understand what you are doing or what you are deciding for yourself. So that is the idea of Immanuel Kant. Okay, so the fourth ethical theories or framework about the social life is the Aristotle virtue ethics. So Aristotle also pointed out that when you talk about your social life, you should know your misotes as the guide. You can use your misotes as the guide to all the action that a person has to take. So what is misotes? Misotes is trying to find your balance, trying to find your mean, the average of your decision. So if this is your decision, what will happen to you? If this is your decision, this will happen to you. Try to find your balance. That is your misotes. And according to Aristotle, you need to use your misotes as a guide to your action. Before you take any action, to try to find your balance using your misotes. Guided by our desires, we are guided by a lot of people, a lot of things. So therefore, if you are guided by a lot of people, a lot of things, we should be aware of our virtues. We should be aware of the things that is really important for us. Yes, we are surrounded with a lot of things, a lot of people, a lot of pressures, a lot of stressors. That's why we need to be aware of our virtues. Meaning, none of my personal virtues, meaning things that are important to me, they are not fixed points. It will vary from time to time depending on the things that really matters to me. Therefore, your virtues, your personal choice, they are not fixed points. So that's why we need to find our misotes, our balance, because there is nothing permanent in this world. We need to find our balance. Okay, we need to find our balance because our virtues, the things that is important to you are not fixed. Today, the things that is important to you, this one, but later on, 5 years from now, the things that is important to you will also change depending on your personal and your global society. It will change. That's according to Aristotle. Okay, the Aristotelians virtue ethics. Okay, so the last topic that I'll be discussing is the non-human environment. Okay, so let's explain more about the non-human environment. Okay, so ethics is not all about the human to human interaction. For me, we also have the animal ethics, right? So appeal sad siya. So therefore, we'll talk about the non-human environment. So most ethical theories focus more on the interhuman relations, the human to human relations, rather than human to non-human relations. But in this discussion, I'll be explaining to you the environmental ethics based on the four ethical theories. Diba? Kato si Mill, kato si Aristotle, si who else? Aristotle, si Thomas Aquinas, and the rest. So I will explaining that to you based on their own idea. Okay, so let's start with the idea of John Stuart Mill in the case of utilitarianism. So according to John Stuart Mill, he pointed out that when you talk about the non-human environment, he is more focused on the idea. He is more focused on the idea of the pleasure and the pain, right? So in making human decisions, now is we need to to maximize pleasure and to minimize pain. Okay, so therefore, so in making human decisions, we need to consider other creatures that can experience pain and pleasure. So we should not focus, according to Mill's utilitarianism, we should not focus on ourselves alone. We should also focus on other creatures that can also experience the pleasure and the pain, like the animals, right? So therefore, according to Paul, so we should also cover the greatest happiness principle with other creatures, not just humans. That's what you can see. Di ba kabantay ka sa mga iro? Ang mga iro nato, they don't have the free will to do things. They are not moral agents, but they can but naa sila'y pleasure, malipay sila, lambing sila, they have their own emotion. And masakitan sad na sila. That's why when you talk about ethics, we should not focus on our human-to-human interaction. We should also focus on our human to non-human environment. Okay? So that's why naay mga dog lover, unsa pa na, mga lover, o diba? So daghan kaayo tag mga butang nga grabe we put importance because naapod sila emotion, the animal ethics. So animal ethics argue that humans should always take into account the potential pleasure or pain that they may inflict on animals. So animal ethics wants us to also be responsible on giving pleasure or pain sa atong mga alaga or sa atong mga dog, no? That's why masakitan jud kay ko basta naiiro nga pasakitan, murag ma-feel na akong emotion, and then I feel happy if naiiro nga very sweet. Sa karon sa pandemic, I know that we are investing our time at home, and then daghan kay tag mga iro, no, daghang breed, because dogs for me can also give me pleasure. It makes me happy, it makes me calm, mawala akong stressed, right? If I tend to play with my dogs, lingaw siya. It gives me pleasure. At the same time, nalingaw sad akong iro. So therefore, Mill's idea about the non-human environment is as long as kana siya, dili man siya tao, that creature is not human, but if naa siya feelings or emotions, if that creature can experience pain or the pleasure, therefore we should be accountable to it because we are the moral agent. We are capable to think. We are the ones capable to think. Right? So that's why pasalamat po daghan kayo mga animal lovers karon because of the pandemic. So at least na ay nindot ang idea of utilitarianism. It is not all about the human-human interaction. It is also about the human to non-human interaction. So the second ethical framework in understanding our non-human environment is the idea of Immanuel Kant. So Immanuel Kant focuses on the idea of deontology. So according to him, we need to focus on our innate dignity as a person and will lead to attainable social existence. Okay, let's try to explain this in Bisaya, no? Okay, so according to Immanuel Kant is kita ko no isip usa ka tawo dili jud kuno ta makaingon no that we are doing universalizability or universalized maxim because kita ko no isip usa ka tawo natay gipamuhat no nga gibuhat nato karon nindot siya pero later on makadaot po daay siya. So it's not considered as the idea of universalizability. So kung mubuhat na kuno kag something nga dili ma-maintain ang atong social existence, dili jud daw na siya maayo. That's according to Immanuel Kant. So for example, because of our action, naa siya'y dili maayo nga mahitabo pud sa tua. For example, is the cutting of trees, magpataka taglabig basura. So, di na siya sakto because in the end, there is a negative impact. There is flood na ay madaot, maglunop. So, therefore, the idea of Immanuel Kant about the non-human environment is we should also take care of our environment para ma-maintain ang atong social existence. We should not focus on ourself today. We should also be concerned with what will happen to our future if we will not take care of our non-human environment. So that's why karon I am so happy to see na before you get married, 'di ba, magminyo ka is naa siya'y kinahanglan mo magtanom, right? You plant trees. So every time you magminyo, you need to plant trees para mutubo siya. So as you grow with your own family, mo grow sa ang plants nga imong gitanom. So it's a good thing because we are now concerned with our non-human environment. So when you talk about ethics, it doesn't mean that the human-human interaction alone should also focus on the human to non-human environment. So that is the idea of Immanuel Kant. So the third idea of non-human environment is the idea of Thomas Aquinas. No, is dili lang siya focus about our physical environment and human moral responsibility. He also focus on producing or building a harmonious, peaceful society. So ang gusto jud ani nila is we need to build a harmonious social life with other being. So that's why we should not focus on our physical environment kung unsay mabuhat nato diri sa atong palibot or atong mga responsibility. We should also produce a harmonious, peaceful society. Take note, ang atong physical environment, ang kuan siya is dili siya maka-produce no og harmonious, peaceful society. Kita jud as human beings, we are the ones responsible to produce a harmonious, peaceful society. So according to Thomas Aquinas is we should not neglect the physical argument because of our short-sightedness. What does it mean? We should not focus on ourselves alone and we should not focus on, di ba mas kuan siya about the promotion of truth, the relationship with other coexistence. So man kan Thomas Aquinas, our natural inclination to do good. That is the idea of Thomas Aquinas. Okay, lastly, the idea of Aristotle. So Aristotle's virtue ethics. So he tries to explain the idea of the non-human environment. So according to Aristotle, because of our short-sightedness, what do you mean by short-sightedness? It's because we are so focused on the things that we have today. We don't focus on the future. The idea of Aristotle is he wants us to become a better person. So how can we become a better person if we are so short-sightedness? If we do not go beyond what is really important? If we are just focused with today, if we don't think about the future, what will happen to the future, that is short-sightedness. Yes, nalipay ka karon, but waka kaybaw later on, basta mag-antos ka. Right? You are happy now, but later, because of your decisions, possibly you will be affected by it and then it will give your life unhappiness. Okay, so that's why Aristotle wants us to use our intellectual virtue. To use our intellectual virtue and try to ask ourselves if we are becoming a better person because of our decisions. So let's try to ask ourselves, according to Aristotle, is learn to ask yourself if that decision is really good for you or not. So let's use our intellectual virtue, our ability to think. So how can a person claim that she is cultivating her character? So how can we tell that a person is really cultivating her own character? If daghan siya gibuhat nga dili maayo, makaingon ka buutan ka, but you are doing things that is not good for you. So how can you tell that you are cultivating your character? Right? So unsa mo pagkahibaw nga nindot ang imong batasan kung mismo ikaw maka-feel ka guilty sa imong gibuhat. So that's the question of Aristotle. So that's why in order for us to become a better person is we need to expand our vision. We need to expand our vision, meaning we need to go beyond what is merely at close hand. So dili lang ta unsay naa karon, okay na ni. Do you think you are happy now or di nakaganahan mao na ni siya? So we should go beyond or expand our vision not just today but for tomorrow or for our future generation. Because when you talk about going beyond the immediate is a strong virtue. That's why if you keep on thinking well about yourself, about others, it is a strong virtue. Kay daghan ba kay mga tao no or some nga di na sila ganahan maglisod-lisod sa ilang kinabuhi. And I can't blame them so nga na ilang vision because they are not expanding their vision. If they try to expand their vision, they can see things that is beyond the immediate. They can see things that is beyond sa ilahang nakita mao di ay. So therefore, a person kitang tanan ay a person has the moral responsibility to see beyond what is immediate. So you have the responsibility to see beyond what is immediate. I also have my own responsibility to see beyond what is immediate. So therefore, one must see beyond the satisfaction of economic needs and make sure that the environment will not lead to something much worse. So therefore, if you try to go beyond what is immediate, we should also, yes, we need our, kinahanglan siya that our economy will grow, but try to ask yourself if that economic needs will not lead to something much worse. That's why daghan kay tag mga gipamuha to protect our non-human environment to maintain sustainability. Okay, this is a very, very long topic. Thank you, God. So I'm done. So nahuman dyan na akong libro sa ethics. Thank you so much for watching. So I hope you are learning from all the videos that I've posted. So I will be posting more. So please don't forget to hit like, share, and subscribe to get more updates. So thank you so much for watching. God bless you. Thank you so much for subscribing. It means a lot to me. So, hapit na. Adya, salamat. Salamat kaayo.